Thousands of slaves in rebellious states eagerly awaited liberation by the Union Army. Among them was Peter, a slave who was spending his final moments with his wife Dodienne and their children Betsy, Cyprian, and Laurette. However, Peter's freedom is abruptly taken away when he is forcibly removed from his home to be moved to a new plantation in Clinton. Despite his valiant fight to stay with his family, Peter relents when his wife's life is threatened at gunpoint. As Peter and the other slaves arrived at Clinton, they witnessed a harrowing sight. Another slave named John attempted to flee from the torment of their captors, but John was swiftly apprehended by the ruthless slave handlers and permanently marked with a brand on his cheek as punishment. Peter and the other slaves are subjected to harsh work conditions, enduring endless abuse and discrimination. Despite the hardships, Peter remains steadfast in his faith in God and shares his hope for freedom with the other slaves. However, John dismisses Peter's belief, claiming that there is no God to save them from their current predicament. The next day dawned with Peter and his fellow slaves enduring the harsh realities of discrimination through grueling labor. Assigned to carry a heavy wooden bar, Peter and Thomas struggled under its weight. When Thomas faltered, the handler's fury erupted, beating and callously throwing him aside. In a moment of defiance, Peter rushed to Thomas's aid, offering a helping hand. However, their act of solidarity was met with a chilling threat as the handler aimed his gun at Peter, commanding him to save him when I say so. One day, Peter overhears a conversation revealing that Lincoln's army is in Baton Rouge, and many slaves are fleeing in that direction to seek freedom. Inspired by this news, Peter devises a daring plan to escape through the treacherous swamps. Peter confided in his companions, sharing whispers of hope he'd heard of freedom awaiting them in Baton Rouge. Seizing an opportunity during the burial of deceased slaves, Peter waits for explosions to distract the handlers and launches a fierce attack, managing to kill some of them. Together with several other brave slaves, Peter begins their escape towards the swamp, closely pursued by a group led by a ruthless man named Fassel. With Fassel and his relentless men and their ferocious dogs hot on their heels, panic gripped Peter and the other fleeing slaves. Fassel's rage knew no bounds as he pursued them mercilessly through the dense woods. Desperation fueled their flight as they raced toward the river, a formidable barrier guarded by lurking alligators. Despite the danger, Peter, John, and the others risked everything to cross to the other side, driven by the primal instinct for survival. However, amidst the chaos, Thomas made a fateful decision, halting in his tracks and resigning himself to face their pursuers head-on. Thomas is attacked by the handler's hounds. Faced with a choice, Thomas reveals the group's destination, Baton Rouge, in exchange for his freedom. However, Fassel betrays Thomas by shooting him and leaving his remains for the swamp's alligators to devour. Peter's bold decision to separate from the other slaves was a desperate gamble for freedom. However, his journey took a dangerous turn when he encountered a family enjoying a meal near a house. Despite his attempt to blend in and quench his thirst, he was spotted by the young daughter of the slave owner. Alerted to his presence, the father sent men after him. Forced to flee into the treacherous swamp, Peter found himself in a life-or-death struggle against a formidable alligator. Despite sustaining injuries, he managed to fend off the beast and sought refuge in the safety of a tree, tending to his wounds while remaining hidden from his pursuers. Fassel and his men, along with house slave Knowles, Aaron Moten, stop for the night to rest and cook a gator. Fassel shares a disturbing story from his childhood where he had an interaction with a female slave who had cared for him and shown him kindness. When Fassel asked his father if she could join their family for dinner, his father replied that giving anything to slaves would lead them to thinking that they were entitled to more. Fassel later revealed that he had been secretly sneaking food to her, prompting his father to stab and abandon her in the fields to die painfully over 3 days. As hunger and thirst gnawed at him, Peter pressed on through the unforgiving terrain, seeking refuge from both his physical and pursuers' relentless pursuit. And he stumbled upon a small wooden house, a beacon of hope in the wilderness. Checking cautiously around, he ascended a ladder and discovered a precious source of water, quenching his parched throat. Meanwhile, back on the plantation, Dodienne is informed by Captain Lyons that she has been sold to another owner and will not be allowed to take her children with her. She is instructed to marry another man and leave them behind. Determined not to be separated from her family, she injures herself while operating a cotton machine to render herself unfit for sale. As Peter continued to elude his pursuers, his struggle for survival intensified. Foraging for food and water, he relied on his wits to outsmart the slave owner's dogs, using onions to mask his scent and throw them off his trail. Amidst the dense woods, he stumbled upon John, sharing his precious onions and instructing him on their use to evade capture. However, as Fassel and his men closed in, the desperate duo resorted to desperate measures. John climbed a tree for safety, while Peter sought refuge in another nearby tree. Tragically, Fassel's relentless pursuit ended in bloodshed as he shot John down and mercilessly decapitated him for refusing to reveal Peter's whereabouts, leaving a chilling reminder of the brutal consequences. On evening, Peter stumbles upon a burnt-down house where a family has been brutally murdered. He finds a slave girl who is gravely injured and tries to save her, but she dies in his arms after giving him a cross necklace. A slave handler appears and attempts to capture Peter, but he manages to fight back and shoots the handler as well as Knowles. Before delivering the final blow, Peter tells Knowles that he is the worst kind of person for supporting slavery and its atrocities. The next morning, Peter moves closer towards Baton Rouge as he hears the sound of Lincoln's army's cannons. However, Fassel catches up to him and tries to apprehend him, risking his life. Fassel removes out a food from his pocket and tells Peter to beg for it, but Peter remains shut. Fassel points his gun on Peter's head, but the Union soldiers arrive and shoot Fassel in the neck, killing him. They rescue Peter and take him to a camp where he receives the necessary medical attention. He is informed that he must enlist with the Union Army to secure his and his family's freedom. Peter appears before Captain Andrew Caillou to discuss his motives for joining the Union Army. Peter declares that he will fight against the people who had once abused him. Together with other soldiers, they are assigned the task of infiltrating a Confederate camp and capturing their cannons. The men prepare for battle, knowing that the fight to abolish slavery and gain true freedom is far from over. As the battle rages on, Peter fearlessly leads a charge that results in severe casualties, including the loss of Captain Andrew Caillou. However, their bravery pays off as the Union soldiers overwhelm the Confederate forces, successfully overtaking their camp. With the victory secured, the native guard marches through Peter's old plantation, witnessing a powerful moment of justice. Peter stands witness as Captain Lyons, the former owner of the plantation, is executed for his crimes. The people on the plantation, who were once enslaved, are declared free, and they joyfully celebrate the long-awaited news. Filled with hope and determination, Peter walks around the plantation, desperately searching for his family. After what feels like an eternity, he finally spots them in the distance. A tearful and joyous reunion takes place as they embrace one another tightly. Rejoicing in their freedom and newfound unity, they gather together to pray, offering their gratitude for the resilience that brought them back together. In the closing moments, text appears on the screen to inform viewers of the impact that Peter's story had on the world. The image of the man Peter was based on became a symbol that transcended boundaries, spreading a powerful message against the horrors of slavery. The text also reveals a significant historical event. On June 19, 1865, more than 4 million enslaved African Americans were finally recognized as free. Ultimately, the Underground Railroad serves as a poignant reminder of the human spirit's ability to endure and overcome even the most inconceivable hardships. It sheds light on the atrocities of slavery while also amplifying the resilience, strength, and unwavering determination of those who fought for their freedom.